Hey guys, LevelCap here, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Gaming, the new show where we cover all things FPS. If a story in particular interests you, be sure to check the description for links to all the news I'm covering today. Now, in case you haven't heard or seen my other videos, our first bit of news is that Battlefield 1 is getting its first free DLC, a map called Giant's Shadow and a grenade crossbow for the support class. If you want all the details, check out the video I did about it earlier this week. The map looks like it's a good mix of urban and open areas to fight in and features a crash behemoth. I don't know about you guys, but I'm super excited for new Battlefield 1 content. The amount of content in BF1 right now compared to previous Battlefield games is a little lackluster. Leaks have put the total number of DLC weapons coming from Battlefield 1 at around 20, but that could include things like the new grenade launcher crossbow, not just guns. DICE also launched a new custom game mode called Line of Sight for Battlefield 1. It removes grenades, vehicles, and all classes aside from Scout and Medic. Scouts also do more damage. By itself, the game mode is nothing particularly special, but I think it shows how much potential there is for new game modes that were never seen in a Battlefield game. Once the new rent-a-server system is updated a bit more, I think we could start seeing these new custom game modes popping up a bit more frequently. It's going to be interesting to see what the community comes up with. Switching gears, there was big hardware news this week as Nintendo debuted their new console, the Nintendo Switch, live on Jimmy Fallon's late night show. All that's officially known about the hardware in the Switch is that it uses Nvidia's Tegra processor. Eurogamer published a substantial leak about the Switch's hardware a few months back, and so far it seems pretty much spot on. Being a mobile and home console gives the Switch a unique position in the market. Obviously, the mobile gaming market is dominated by smartphones, so I can't see the Switch competing in a big way with them. But most smartphones also don't make it easy to connect to your TV at home and continue playing seamlessly. The Switch is definitely a home console with mobile functionality, and I think most people will end up using it at home rather than on the go. In other hardware news, Google, Oculus, Sony, HTC, and others have created a non-profit organization to develop standards for VR. The Global Virtual Reality Association, or GVRA, aims to be a resource for everyone involved in VR, from hardware manufacturers to consumers. With VR being such a new technology and big name developers like Dean Hall saying it's too early to look at VR as a profit source for developers, it's good to see companies working together to streamline everything. That said, I'd much rather have open standards for VR than rigid rules and regulations that prevent progress from being made. VR enthusiasts are mad right now that a lot of titles are hardware exclusive when the hardware is essentially a screen strapped to your face. And to developers, I'm sure the Rift and Vive each present them with unique challenges that the other platform might not, so making a game just for one instead of both is a legitimate logistical choice. Standardizing VR hardware so developers can easily build games for all systems could help things out, but really what needs to happen is VR needs to be cheaper to get into. The reason VR isn't making developers boatloads of money is because the user base is very small. If the Rift and Vive were as cheap as PlayStation VR, I'm sure there'd be way more VR games on PC. Eventually, the price of good VR hardware could come down to a reasonable price, and when that happens, maybe devs won't need the money from exclusivity deals to make their games. When it comes to international news, the Chinese government passed new regulations this week requiring games with blind loot boxes like CSGO and Overwatch to publish their drop probabilities. The implications of these new regulations aren't exactly clear, but what I can say is knowing how likely you are to get a specific drop could do a lot to curtail the gambling nature of some games. The allure of cases in CSGO is that they might drop in expensive items. Knowing the exact probability of getting an expensive item takes a lot of the mystery and appeal away of spending real money on digital items. In patch news, Doom got a big one that adds multiplayer bots and allegedly removes the de novo DRM from the game. If true, this is a big deal as it puts Doom in with other games that have recently done the same thing. It seems like developers are using DRM as a preventative measure to keep launch sales as high as possible by making cracks of their game take longer to develop for piracy. However, several developers, including id with Doom, are removing the DRM later using a patch. Now, I'm not sure if this is specifically because DRM costs a maintenance fee to maintain, or if it comes with some unwanted consequences. I know some really strong DRMs have caused problems for people who have bought the game with legitimate money money, but then are trying to play it internationally or trying to play it on a different computer, and problems can arise. The other aspect could also be there to improve a declining player base, so people who bought the game legitimately but don't have any people to play against with online might now see new players who are basically pirating the game because of the lack of DRM. Now, I doubt this is an open invitation to pirate Doom, but it is an interesting aspect that developers are choosing to do this later in a game's lifespan. Overwatch is also getting a big patch soon that has the Christmas Overwatch event. Starting on the 13th, the Christmas event is sure to bring unique content and most likely a holiday version of the King's Row map. The previous holiday events for Overwatch have all been really fun, so I'm sure this one will be no different. There's a lot coming up for Overwatch in the next few months with new maps, big changes to Symmetra, the start of competitive play's third season, and more happening soon. And speaking of upcoming stuff, Hideo Kojima's new game Death Stranding had a big trailer drop as part of last weekend's Video Games Award event, and boy is it cool. Featuring the likeness of Mads Mikkelsen and Guillermo del Toro, the trailer showed all kinds of weird stuff like skeleton soldiers, tanks with organic growths all over them, and even an upside down rainbow. What it all means is anyone's guess right now, but considering who it's coming from, it's sure to be epic. In our last bit of news, for EA and Origin Access subscribers that have been holding off on buying Star Wars Battlefront, they can now get their hands on it for free as part of their subscription. This doesn't include the DLC for Battlefront though, so you'll still have to buy that if you want the full experience. And more premium games like Battlefront are making their way to the program all the time. Could this be the start of something like a Netflix for games? I know I'd be down to at least try a service like that, especially if it offered games from a variety of publishers. Anyway, that wraps it up for this week in gaming. There's a lot of stuff coming very soon. The 13th is going to be a big day for multiple games. So as always, stay tuned guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.